starts. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Marcin Tybura, who this past week in UFC Fight Night, Tuivasa versus Tybura, defeated Tai Bam Bam Tuivasa by submission via rear naked choke. The official time 4:08 of round one. Oh my God. I will admit, I did not see this coming. Mark, let's start with you. Did you see this coming? And what do you feel about how this fight went?
We all whiffed. We all wanted to believe in Tai, and this one hurt as a fan of Tai, man. You know, the other losses you could accept, like they were against elite studs, and Tybura was kind of that one step down. And as a fan of Tai, you were like, you know, you hoped he could get it done, and I really thought he could. And I loved how he was looking on the feet for the first minute and a half or whatever it was. He was ripping leg kicks, which I wanted to see. He had intent to injure on every shot he was throwing. He was placing them beautifully, mixing in the elbows, which I loved, cut him open. I mean, I was like genuinely excited in that first minute or two of like, wow, Tai is coming for blood tonight. And then one takedown and it all went south. I really thought that Tybura would have to work harder than that to find a sub on Tai or to just control him as easily as he did. Now, granted, he did work hard on the feet and during that early barrage that was coming at him. I don't want to skip past that. He certainly endured to get to the takedown and even to earn the takedown. But once there wasn't a ton of resistance. And, you know, props to Tybura for adjusting and changing the fight the way that he did. But it came easier than I ever thought it would on the ground. And I don't think that was a great look for Tai. And he tried to tough it out. Obviously, give him credit for that. He never tapped, but it was relatively easy once they got into a grappling situation for Tybura to wrap that fight up. So a big win for him to bounce back and maintain his status in the division. And on the flip side, it's 4 straight L's for Tai now. Didn't look great once it hit the mat, which is going to be a problem against a lot of heavyweights if he can't at least shore that up somewhat. And he's going to need the next one. I mean, the job is safe because he's Tai Tuivasa and he's a popular guy and he's got his fair share of highlights and all this, but 4 L's in a row is not good no matter who you are.
Yeah, man. Omar, let's bring you in here. What were your thoughts across the 4 minutes of this fight?
I mean, I guess the quickness at which it happened might have been more of a surprise, but there was nothing really surprising about the things that happened in that fight, right? We knew that Tai is very dangerous on the feet. I mean, it took him all of 20, 25 seconds to open up Marcin Tybura. Didn't take very long. Damage had been done early. Blood had been spilled early. But like we had talked about, you know, he's really lacking a ground game, and not even just takedown defense, but also what the right things to do on the ground are. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not my thing, but there I feel like we're very obvious things, and even through the commentary, you know, with the commentary kind of guiding people along with what should be done and what shouldn't be done. Like even visually, if you've watched MMA for a while, you could tell that there were certain decisions that were being made on the ground by Tai that were just not the right decisions. And you know, he got eaten up on the ground as a result of it. You know what I mean? No one's disputing the power he has on the feet, the skill he has on the feet, because it's more than just the fact that he can throw hands. You know, his technique is pretty damn good. But it's really that hole in his game, and it's a big hole in that ground game of his. The thing I think that gives me equal amounts of frustration and equal amounts of optimism is that the hole is so big that I think if you really just trained it, I feel like he can close those holes up pretty quickly. And that makes me sad because I feel like these are things that you should have done forever ago, like when you first started this whole thing, right? But here we are, and hopefully he can get some of those holes cleared up. I really don't think they're that. I don't think we're talking about black belt level holds that he needs to make adjustments on. I really think these are just simple fundamentals that I think he just needs to work into his reactions and his game. And I think we might see a much better time in the future, ideally, if he does that. But as of right now, anybody who can get a takedown and can keep him down, I mean, you can see him trying to muscle out of all the get-ups. There's no technique involved in it at all. and anybody with a decent ground game is going to do that kind of abuse to him all the time.
It actually kind of makes me think of and appreciate the brute strength of Derek Lewis, for whom there is an entire highlight reel of him just muscling out of like grounded positions.
But
and dudes just
even
can't
to
hold him
Derek
down.
Lewis's credit, like Derek Lewis even times certain get-ups properly.
That's true.
Like,
That's
yes,
true.
he muscles them for sure, but he doesn't muscle them from like a 0 point. He's always using somebody's momentum against them, or finding a door to walk out of. He's never just like on his shoulders and like whoop. Like, that's never really just him. He has a bit of technique to what he does. He just makes it work for him.
Mark, remind me, what were the odds of this fight? Was Tai the favorite? Or was it near even?
It was more or less even, but yeah, Tai was favored. He was minus 125. Tybura was plus 105.
Man, it is tough to see a fan favorite like Tai Tuivasa. It's like, don't look now. The man has lost four straight. And after not having lost since 2019, he was on a nice little streak there. And now he's on a losing streak. And I hate to see this because he's so good and he's so popular, and for good reason too. But let's quickly talk about Tai now that I'm on the topic of Mark. Where do you think Tuivasa can go from here at heavyweight? Give me the matchup that can maybe help him right the ship. No offense to his next opponent.
Yeah, I mean, as we've alluded to, if you are the UFC, you are looking at this like, we need to find the guy that Tai is going to knock out. You're trying to avoid a grappler. Like, if you look down the rankings, there's like a Rodrigo Nascimento, but like, do you want to go with a guy like that who could potentially take him down and tap him again? So like, you kind of got to skip past a guy like that. You don't want to go too far down and have it look like, oh my God, like this is who they gave Tai. Like, I don't want to throw someone's name out there, but the kind of guys I'm talking about. So it's a little tricky, but the one I settled on, because he would give him a striking match, and he is kind of right at the edge of these rankings where you could justify it, is Waldo Cortez Acosta. And I'm not saying that's any sure thing, but if we got to try to find someone that we would hope Tai could get it done against, that's where I went.
Spoilers, Waldo is now booked as of like a couple days ago.
Oh, I fucking checked yesterday. It said nothing. Who's he fighting?
Waldo, he's fighting Robles de España.
Oh, really?
Whoa.
Yep.
Holy shit.
Robelis.
Wow.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
It still says
UFC,
nothing.
what is it? St. Louis, I guess, May 11th. What I'm saying.
Yeah, Sure Dog's not even updated. Well, then I'm gonna have to adjust my my thoughts.
I apologize. I ruined your life.
I don't know. There's not a lot of fucking choices. Who'd you go with, Omar?
I went with Alexander Romanov for that very same reason. There's not a lot of choices. It's not a ton of choices, man.
Just asking him to get wrestle fucked again.
But like, what? But who? But where else at heavyweight are you really going to go? My thing is, I wanted to put him as close to the edge of the rankings for him to sort of defend his spot as possible. But again, I mean, just to your point, everybody's going to try to take him down, and there's a ton of people here who can. It's hard to avoid all that right now.
I know. It's fucking hard. It is very hard. Who's
the best you can do? I mean, if you want to have Tai sit out for a minute and maybe see what comes out of this Acosta de España fight, you know what I mean? Because
God, I don't think I want
either one of those could be a good fight.
Bellies though.
I mean, he's got a better shot at beating Robelis than he did a lot of these guys that are just going to ground and pound him.
Is Dante Mays booked?
I don't know. I'm scared.
Dontel Mays. He's fighting Caio Machado. Maybe Dontel Mays win or lose. So you just
he absolutely will not take him down. You're absolutely
get
right.
A striker. Yeah.
He is booked though. He's booked against Caio Machado.
That's what I just said.
Oh, wow. My bad. I don't know.
Kyle.
That's why I said win or lose. Either way, his next fight is Tai.
Oh, I got you.
Fuck. Okay, let's talk about the winner here. I mean, Tai with his popularity probably going to be, talked about just as much, if not more, as Tybura. But we need to put some respect on this man's name for getting one of the biggest wins of his career, if not the Marcin Tybura. Omar, give me a name at heavyweight. Who does Tybura go up against next? He just lost to Tom Aspinall, and now he beats Tai Tuivasa. What do you think?
I think this might be a nice opportunity to get Almeida out there. I know we had some names for Almeida recently in the last few weeks, but this is why MMA is so fluid. Things change, things happen all the time, opportunities present themselves. And, he had a decent, I think the real thing is that he had a decent showing on the ground. And I think we've seen Almeida have such success on the ground, but not necessarily such dominance on the ground when it comes to the submission game. Might be interesting to see exactly what happens with somebody who's going to maybe potentially put up a challenge on the ground with him.
Mark?
I said last week that if Rosenstruik wasn't going to get Derek Lewis finally, then I thought the winner of this fight would be the right opponent for him. And I still do like that. And then, Tybura and Rosenstruik, whoever wins that one, has kind of earned another shot for themselves against the elite level. But I do agree with Omar. I said last week that I thought Spivak would be the right opponent for Almeida, but if not that, Tybura is kind of same vein, where he could be someone who can at least test the grappling in a similar way to what I thought Spivak could. So I don't hate that either.
Nice. Okay. All right. In the interest of time, because we have quite a bit to get through tonight, let's move on. But congrats to Marcin Tybura for getting this big win, man. And he wins and moves on. Let's go now to the... Let me get here. Here we go. In the co-main event, this fight, man, Bryan Battle versus Ange Loosa. Hope I'm not butchering that too badly. Pun intended. Ends in a no contest due to an eye poke. Bryan Battle pokes Loosa in the eye. What round were we in here? Was it in the second round?
Beginning of the second, yeah.
Omar, take us through. How did this play out? And what were your thoughts throughout this fight?
Well, I mean, there were a couple good takeaways from this fight, to be honest. I think my main concern for this fight going in was the power of Ange Loosa. And, we haven't really seen Bryan Battle. I think we've seen Bryan Battle, and I think we talked about this last week, get kind of run over once. And that was Rinat Fakhretdinov, which is, the man's a steamroller. Those things are going to happen. But Bryan Battle looked goddamn fantastic on Saturday. That first round, I thought he looked absolutely fantastic. He was on point, very sharp, nice counters, nice movement. At one point, he was slipping shots and coming back with returns. I mean, he looked great. Loosa had no answers for it. He was the best Loosa could do throughout that fight was pepper a little bit on the outside to try to get some kind of timing down, get some kind of rhythm down, try to find an opening. But Loosa could literally do nothing. I think he might have touched Battle's face maybe once or twice throughout that entire first round. I mean, there was nothing doing for Loosa. And once we got into that second round, it is really difficult. We try not to be overly critical about things like this when it comes to eye pokes and groin shots and, things like that, right? Because those things don't feel great all the way around. The problem I had with this one was he looked fucking fine, right? He looked fine. We've seen a lot of eye pokes where dudes can't open their eyes, right? They're physically incapable of opening their eyes. We've seen dudes that can't stop blinking, that can't stop touching their eyes. That there are a lot of other factors that I feel like are there in addition to the eye poke, right? Some resulting factors. Loosa just looked like somebody who just needed somebody to blow in his eye really quick. He looked
like it's a Nintendo game.
He looked very not affected by this eye poke. I mean, we've seen dudes who can't stop walking around the ring because their eyes hurt so bad from getting poked. You know what I mean? Like, Loosa didn't present any of those secondary symptoms. You know what I mean? As an outsider looking in, he looked like he was bullshitting. I'm going to be honest. Looked like he was bullshitting.
So it sounds like you are taking the side sort of Bryan Battle and saying he was looking for a way out. He was getting beat up.
I am saying that as an outsider looking in, when I hear Bryan Battle make those kind of accusations, I cannot see the argument against it.
You're like, it tracks.
Yeah.
Okay. Mark, your thoughts on how this played out?
I mean, first of all, Bryan Battle, man, this dude looks better every single time we see him.
Yeah.
And this was kind of exactly what I was talking about last week. Like, no offense to Ange, and I think they were saying Loosa, so that's what I'm going to say.
Really?
No offense to
I thought they were saying
Loosa, but Bryan Battle does not need to be fighting the Ange Loosas of the world anymore at this point. Like, I get it that he took the loss to Renat Fakhretdinov, but like Omar said, Fakhretdinov is very good. It's time to let Bryan Battle fight more established dudes. He has beaten everyone else. And you could see the difference in talent very early in this fight, just by the way he came out, the complete confidence that he had in the cage. He controlled the range. He pressured. He was letting himself flow in there creatively. I mean, he looked great. And then it did look like a bad eye poke when it happened. And I always try to give guys the benefit of the doubt on that. But when you say you can't fight, and then you literally try to
fight
after the decision is read, that's not a great look. Yeah, so I get it why Bryan Battle was pissed in his post-fight interview, and he did cut a hell of a promo there. So hopefully that partially dominant performance and the good promo were enough to get him the type of fight that he wants next, even though he had to settle for a no contest here. But yeah, that was a strange ending, just with how quickly they said they couldn't fight, and then next thing you know, he's like needs to be held back.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he was standing there, for the decision, and he got upset when Bryan Battle turns to him, and instead of like shaking hands, Bryan Battle calls him a pussy to his face and starts cursing him out.
When like, the thong fits, dog.
And he goes, "I'll kill you." How about that? Loosa goes, "I'll kill you."
Yeah.
Like several times. It's ridiculous, though. It's ridiculous. They were just in the middle of a fist fight. If you wanted to kill him, that was your opportunity to do that. Okay, not when there's everybody in there. It's super weird, man. And again,
I hear you.
At no point did he even look like this eye. The eye didn't look like it was affecting him then. He looked perfectly goddamn fine when he was trying to go for Bryan the second time. Just weird.
I don't have an issue with him getting mad. It's just odd to see a guy say I'm too compromised to continue fighting, but then because he gets mad, he is willing to continue fighting when the fight has now been called. It's just,
or is he just putting on a show because he knows his boys are going to hold him back? Like you're
probably not wrong.
Because Loosa wasn't the one that approached Bryan. Bryan was the one that was getting in his face, and he was like, "You're a pussy." That's what I said. You're a pussy. And then it wasn't until people came and started to separate him that Loosa was like, "I kill you. I kill you." It wasn't until after the referee came in and stepped that was what was going on. It's a clown show.
For this one, I
didn't care for any of that.
I think we may never know. It may very well have been that Loosa was, thought this guy is piecing me up, and now my eye is poked and my vision is a little compromised. I'm only going to get more beat up if I try to tough this out with like one eye. And then he got called a pussy on national television, and he was like, "I'll fucking murder you, bro."
Me and Mike try to talk around it a little bit and, just put the facts out there, but maybe give the benefit of the doubt. Omar just is trying to get jumped by a UFC fighter.
He does. Yeah.
It's so frustrating, though, because I guess I see it from the side of like if this happened to one of the guys that I train with at the gym, right? And if all the time and effort that these guys spend 25 minutes in there, right? Because now Bryan isn't going to get a win bonus, right? Because it's no contest. And he was winning that fight. So now you've just screwed this guy out of however many thousands of dollars because you can't see. It just, when people and you can go back to any eye poke that we've ever talked about and things like that. I don't give people shit for these kind of things. I really don't. And because most of the time, if not almost all of the time, you can see the damage one way or the other. You can see the pain. You can see the discomfort. You can see people literally trying to fight with their one eye still being closed and open and closed and open. Like, there are dudes we've seen how fighters react to eye pokes. And then we've seen how guys use eye pokes to get out of fights. I'm not judging. I'm not saying one thing or the other because we really don't know. But again, when Bryan Battle puts it out there that this is what happened, this is how I feel about it, and I look at the facts and I look at what happened and I look at what I can see as an outsider, there's no argument for me to give Loosa, whatever it is, there's no argument for me to go for him against what Bryan Battle said. It's just not there.
Okay. Well, that being said, let's talk about where Bryan Battle can go after this very impressive performance with a disappointing result. Mark, give us a name of where Bryan Battle can go from here.
I hope not back to this same fight. I'm hearing a lot of people say they need to run it back. I disagree. I think we very clearly know who the better man is. It's time to move back up the line. As I said, I don't know what Phil Rowe is up to. Ever since he lost to Neil Magny, he seems to be due back one of these days. I think he would work if he is still out for whatever reasons. I think another option would be Max Griffin, but someone along those lines is who I would like to see Bryan in there with.
What about you, Omar?
Yeah, I'm not really against any of that. I'm not really sure how high we want to throw him because the reality is he's looked very good. He hasn't looked like anybody's really been able to do much to him other than Renat. It might be too much. I know that Buckley and Luque are fighting soon. Maybe the loser. But like him fighting
Luque,
Buckley, I feel like feels more...
Yeah, if Buckley's
more
the
appropriate
loser,
than fighting,
I think that's reasonable.
Oh my God, that's a great fight.
I don't think he's going to be fighting Vicente Luque.
Luque feels, I don't know if he deserves...
Luque feels like
Luque
a lot,
yet.
right? Like Buckley feels like about
Luque
right.
is,
Yeah,
But Luque feels like a lot.
yeah.
Luque is like like one step below elite in my eyes at welterweight.
Yeah.
Maybe Buckley, if Buckley doesn't take care of Luque. I don't know about Luque though. If he loses that fight, that still seems like a lot.
Agree.
Cool. Well, let's talk about. Do you guys have anything to say about Ange? How do you say it?
Loosa, they were saying.
God.
I don't know. But I put down Oban Elliott. He debuted recently. He looked good. He has a little hype on his name, and I don't feel like Loosa is. I can't believe he even got this Bryan Battle fight. So I'm, to me, he's not in any place to be getting big names. So that's where I went. Oban Elliott.
Omar, any words that you want to speak?
Maybe a Darius Flowers. I haven't seen him around in quite some time.
Okay, moving on. Still on the main card here, UFC Fight Night, Tuivasa versus Tybura. Here we go. Ovince St. Preux gets it done via split decision over the much younger Kennedy Nzechukwu. Mark, start us off. Give us your thoughts on how this fight played out and your thoughts on the split.
Yeah, I mean, this was somewhat shocking from Kennedy, man. I mean, granted, at this point, maybe it shouldn't be, because I think what we're learning is that inconsistency is kind of a flaw of his, because we get different Kennedys, it seems. But with all the improvements that we have been seeing from him over time, and the age of OSP, and the KO losses on OSP's record recently, I think we all thought we were going to see a more aggressive Kennedy Nzechukwu than what we got, coming out looking for that chin. And instead, he comes out sparring for like 10 minutes. It was almost like, okay, you go. Now I go. Like that's how he seemed to be approaching that fight. Nothing was fast. Nothing was aggressive. Nothing was even offbeat, really. Like it was very like, okay, now I step here. Your turn. Okay, my turn. Like it was just a strange approach. And then once he got hurt early in round 3, he woke up and we got an unreal final 3 minutes or whatever it was there, where someone on commentary said it best. I forget who it was. He said it looked like they were tied together. And it really did. Like every step a guy took back, the other guy stepped forward, and there was never more than a few inches between them. So that final 3 minutes was incredible, and they both gave a lot and took a lot in those final 3 minutes. So props to them for that. But it was too late for Kennedy by that point. And OSP fought a really good fight. I actually thought he looked way more confident in his hands than we've historically seen from him. He's usually very, very kick heavy and doesn't want to get in these types of exchanges. And in this fight, he was like, all right, I'm stepping into the phone booth. Like I'm ready to go. So that was kind of a nice progression that we don't normally see from OSP that I wasn't expecting at age, I forget, 40, 41, whatever he is. And yeah, like I said, he fought a good fight and he surprised a lot of people here and kind of had a little bit of a and I'm still here performance, but definitely a frustrating showing for Kennedy Nzechukwu, who had teased us with, you know, some talent that he obviously has and didn't really deliver on it here.
Omar, your thoughts of the fight and of the split?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with the sparring aspect of it. It just seemed like he was, and I think this was partially why he thought he won at the end, because I'm sure he felt good, right? Felt good, jumping around, moving around, mobile, right? OSP didn't really land anything that was like going to put Nzechukwu out. Kind of got cracked a little bit though, right at the third end or at the third round. But like, to Nzechukwu's credit, his footwork did look better than I think it's ever really looked. His movement looked fantastic. But like Mark said, there was no real urgency. It wasn't even really like there was a fight. It almost felt like he was in there trying to hit pads with somebody, right? Like somebody was just there to just throw some things and kind of get something going there. But like no real sense that there was a fight going on. And I think if there was somebody who was potentially a little bit even more aggressive, because OSP is also not necessarily the most aggressive fighter in the world, but somebody more aggressive might have been able to put Kennedy out with that kind of performance. Kennedy was doing a lot of waiting, a lot of backpedaling when he didn't need to be. You know, we've seen him walk forward. We've seen him be the aggressor before when he didn't have all that footwork, and it's worked out for him in the past. So to see him gain some footwork and lose the aggression and in turn lose the fight because he didn't push forward enough doesn't really give me the idea that that OSP is better than him or even vice versa. But it just shows obviously that OSP is still here to stay, obviously. But at the same time, it just shows that Nzechukwu doesn't have a handle on exactly what his game is yet. And I think he's still trying to figure out exactly what style is going to work for him. You know, not everybody who learns Muay Thai or anything like that, we all learn the same foundation, but not everything is for everybody. Some people have to make things their own. So I think that's the gray area I think we're dealing with Kennedy.
Mm-hmm. So OSP's record now improves to 27-17. And in the UFC, he improves to 15-12 in the UFC. And he snaps a 2-fight losing streak with this win over Nzechukwu. Mark, give us the name of where you think OSP can go from here.
I kind of think he became relevant again with that win, and I think he deserves a pretty solid next opponent. So I'll say, how about Dominic Reyes? I think that's a fair fight for both of these guys at this point in their career.
Excellent. Omar?
I don't hate that, actually. I went the direction of Carlos Oberg, kind of for the same reason.
Wow.
It's a good name. It's a very good name. I think it's a solid fight. I think we'll get a good stand-up fight in that competition. But it's, you know, it's one of those ones where OSP is going to have to be on if he's going to end up winning that fight. And I think if you're going to have a performance like this one, and you're really trying to still do something in this division, I think Oberg is one of the guys to do it with.
He is fighting Menefield. I will throw that out there. So maybe you want the loser of that one or something.
Maybe either first of all, Menefield's been looking fucking fantastic.
Yeah,
lately. I know. So I don't hate either one of those if it's a loser for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Nzechukwu briefly. His record falls to 12-5, and now 6-5 in the UFC. His second decision loss in the UFC. Omar, your thoughts of who could possibly match up with Nzechukwu next?
Every time I hear how many fights dudes have had in the UFC, I am baffled. Just baffled.
Yeah, he still feels
it just doesn't occur to me, man. He does. 11 fights though?
Yeah, man.
Jesus.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes, very much so. Well, 11 fights in, and the man somehow has not fought Ian Cutelaba, so let's maybe go in that direction.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. I feel like I looked this up.
I feel like I remember him just beating Ian Cutelaba.
Oh shit.
Yeah, dude, he did.
Oh my god. What the hell did I look up? Oh my god.
Yeah, in 2022. But to back up Omar a little bit here, it is hard to match him up because he has fought like everyone in the area that he is in, because he's never broken through to the rankings. He's obviously better than the bottom of the division. So like the 10 guys who are like in the clump that he is in this division, he's fought them all. So it is kind of hard to find someone for him to fight. I went Marcin Tybura. He's also been kind of up and down. He's kind of worked his way maybe back up to where Kennedy is. So, not a ton of options. That's where I'll go.
Nice. All right. Let us move on once again.
I wonder if there's a Tafa brother somewhere for Nzechukwu.
Well, they're
I
heavyweights.
guess that's the wrong. Yeah, that's the wrong one.
You're just fucking move on.
I'm over it. I'm over it. We'll move on. I'm over it.
All right. I failed to mention earlier that this went down at a little-known venue called the UFC Apex. Okay. Next fight up. Where are we here? We have a split decision win, another split decision win for Christian Rodriguez, C-Rod. It went down in the featherweight division after C-Rod had to move up, I believe. He keeps the win streak going, does C-Rod. 4 in a row now. Defeating Isaac Dulgarian, like I said, by a split decision. Mark, give us your thoughts on this fight and on this split.
You guys are very frozen. I don't know if you're hearing me. Oh, there you go. Now everyone's back. All right. I assume it's been pitched to me at this point.
It has, yes.
Okay.
It has. Normally, when you freeze now, Mike and I just know you're going to come back, so we just let it rock.
Right.
Nice. Yeah, hated it. This was some bullshit. Christian Rodriguez has like some pixie dust on him or some shit where things just seem to break right for him. He did not win this fight. Not one expert on MMA decisions scored this fight for him. Only 9% of the public scored this fight for him. This decision was trash. We had 2 10-8 rounds. That much is clear. Dulgarian won round 1, 10-8. C-Rod won round 3, 10-8. And that leaves round 2 to decide this fight. And in the 5 minutes of round 2, Isaac Dulgarian had 4 minutes and 11 seconds of control time. 4 minutes and 11 seconds. That leaves 49 other seconds where he was not in control. Now, to be clear, you know me. I'm one of the first people to say let's not reward holding if the other fighter is doing enough damage to justify the round going his way. But I didn't see this as that. Like, if you compare C-Rod's strikes, where he was a bit ahead of Dulgarian's strikes, you got to add in Dulgarian had 4 takedowns, and you're looking at a pretty even round. From there, you break the tie by saying, okay, there were 4 minutes and 11 seconds of control time. So I don't get it. It was 12 strikes to 8. Like, one of them was solid impact from C-Rod, but again, 4 takedowns, 4 minutes, 11 seconds of control time. So I hate it. I firmly believe Dulgarian got robbed. Now, he certainly gassed horribly, and that is on him. If not for that, he would never even have had to worry about being in this position. So there's certainly some looking in the mirror that needs to be done for Isaac Dulgarian. And I get it. He had never been out of the first round before. He probably trusted his cardio more than he should have. So maybe this is the one where it opens his eyes to the improvements that he needs to make here if he's going to be winning fights at this level. So we'll see how he looks next time out. But either way, I thought he did enough. And instead, C-Rod gets another weird tainted win, whether it's by gaining an advantage from missing weight or winning on bad scorecards. It just seems like there's always something that's breaking his way. And he is good. Like, I don't want to make it seem like he's not. Like, he did, endure a lot and got up and made Dulgarian work and made Dulgarian tired and took advantage of opportunities. And then, of course, beat the fuck out of him in round 3. Like, he's a good fighter. It's just that I think that's kind of lost in this whole situation because I think pretty much the entire world agrees, as I just referenced on MMA Decisions, that he did not win this fight.
Okay. Omar, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think a lot of times when it comes to judging, there is a bad habit of rewarding a fighter for looking better than they looked in the last round as the winning fighter. And to credit to C-Rod, because after that first round, that whole ass beating of a first round, the dude came back in the second round ready to go, ready to scrap. You know what I mean? And I thought he put up a hell of a fight in the second round, even with the even with the takedowns and the control and all that. Like, at no point was C-Rod just on his back accepting things. Like, he was consistently fighting, but in trying to regain control all the time and get back up on his feet and stuff like that. Like, Dulgarian was still, in my opinion, racking up points, right? He was still the controller. He was still the aggressor. He was the one landing shots on the ground when there were shots getting landed on the ground. But he did look, I mean, C-Rod looked significantly, obviously, he was a 10-8 round in the first round. He looked significantly better in the second round than he did in the first. And I just think sometimes that can sway the judges when somebody doesn't look as dominant in the, in one round versus the way that they looked in the previous round. And I think that's what might have happened in the second round with a couple of these judges. I think they saw that C-Rod had a better performance in the second round, right? Dulgarian wasn't taking him down as successfully in the second round as he did in the first round. And I think the juxtaposition of the performances in the first and the second probably made them lean more to maybe C-Rod took that one, right? Because it wasn't as clear at that point as far as the way that it went in the first round. So it's possible that could have happened. The reality, though, is the fact that we even got to a third round and C-Rod was putting on a 10-8 performance is absolutely insane. It is crazy to get your ass whooped in the first round, come back in the second round to even put on a decent performance, and then to come back in the third round to absolutely try to annihilate this kid is crazy. This fight was absolutely bonkers from beginning to end. Take away the controversy to it, take away all that. Like, this was an absolute dogfight, and if you love fighting, this had everything for you. Submission attempts, striking, takedowns, ground game rolling, clinching up top. I mean, all the check boxes were checked. I loved this fight.
Okay, man. Okay. That being said, let's talk about where these two featherweights can go from here on the heels of this split decision. Mark, let me start with you. Give me the name for the winner, at least on paper, Christian C-Rod Rodriguez.
I would like to see an established veteran featherweight across from C-Rod next time out as a real gauge of where he's at. So I got two names. One is more established than the other, but both vets. I would like to see like a Darren Elkins or a Daniel Pineda.
Oh, wow. Okay. Omar, your thoughts?
I went with a Ricardo Ramos, kind of for the same reasons. Like, I wanted to see him against somebody who's relatively established, has a little bit of a name to him. I don't hate the Darren Elkins one, though. It's not
sure.
bad.
Ramos fighting on Saturday.
Okay, anything for Isaac Dulgarian, who has lost his own, no longer undefeated, falls to 6-1 as a pro. Mark, your thoughts for Dulgarian?
I want to treat him like at least a little bit of a winner. Not like move him up, but kind of similar level. And I'll say I went with Meerschaert Bagdasaryan.
Meerschaert Bagdasaryan. Omar.
Yeah, I also didn't want to. I did want to move him up somewhat, but I also didn't want to move him too far up. I like I said, I thought it was a great fight either way. But I had him in the Jack Jenkins realm, in that direction.
It's a good one. I looked at that too. I don't know if you guys know this already. I just got an update on my phone that Conor McGregor apparently said he received confirmation that he is fighting this summer and that it's official.
Yeah, I will believe that shit when I see something official, because McGregor has already played with my emotions since like last year. So
fair enough.
Too many
cool,
promises at this point.
Cool. Okay. Let's
Keep
move
moving.
on to one last one. Let's
We
see
got two more.
here. I thought one more. Chiasson, you want to do Meerschaert?
That was the main card.
Yeah, we're gonna do the main
My
card.
bad. My bad. Okay, Macy Chiasson defeats Pannie Kianzad by a submission via rear naked choke. The official time, 3:54 of round number 1 for Chiasson. Omar, your thoughts on how this round played out?
Thought it was a scrap, man. I mean, these girls went down to the ground pretty quickly. Were rolling on the ground, going for submissions, trying to find some exchanges down there. Not too much ground and pound overall, but I mean, these girls were playing chess down there as much as they could. Got back up to the feet, ended up back down on the ground again. And to Macy's credit, man, I mean, that rear naked choke that she ended up sinking in was really well placed. And Kianzad was trying everything that she could to try to find an opening to try to get that rear naked choke off. But Macy had it behind the neck. So obviously when you see somebody with their, the arm wrapped around the neck, that's the one part of it, right? That's the part that gets you, but the part that really leverages it in, that part that locks it in, is the part from behind, right? And you'll see a lot of people hold on to the head sometimes. That really doesn't do too much because that's when people are able to grab the arm, pull it down, release a little bit of the pressure, and kind of fight from there. But when people have it behind the neck in conjunction with their bicep and like that kind of triangle, those 3 points there, man, that's the shit that ruined lives there. And she got it, looked beautiful, and Kianzad, to her credit, like I said, tried to do everything she could to get out of it. Didn't work out for her, and great performance for Macy Chiasson.
Mark?
Yeah, this was a nice win for Macy. She's always had visible talent. She's just had some ups and downs, and now she's really right back in the mix with this win. And you could tell that she knew she had the grappling advantage. Obviously, she subbed Pannie the first time they fought. I'm sure that was on her mind, but she came out and she wanted to press that right away. She looked to drag it down real quick. And, as Omar said, I got to say, Pannie did look good in the defensive grappling. I'm even talking pre this choke. She looked good in the defensive grappling for a while, like much improved from what we saw in her last fight against Vieira. So clearly she's been putting in work there, but she even reversed position a couple times. She made it interesting. She had Chiasson working, so good for her on that. But improvements aside, she still was a notch below Macy, and eventually that was going to, come to light. And Macy exposed that. Once she had back control, she was able to just take her time, working to truly take the back. And then once she got there, Pannie was in trouble. So well done by Macy, and we'll see if she can get that big bantamweight win in her next one that has kind of always seemed to elude her from truly cracking through to the top. But she's going to have another shot now, you would think.
Yeah, man. And her record now improves to 9-3, 7-3 in the UFC. And this is her second win by submission in her career. That being said, Mark, what do you think could be next for Macy Chiasson at ladies bantamweight?
I actually wanted to look how high she ended up in the rankings. Yeah, makes sense. I hadn't looked. I think the best choice for Macy is probably a fight that they tried to book, I believe, fairly recently, if I remember, that fell through, which is Ketlin Vieira. I think they should go right back to that one.
Very nice. Omar?
I was actually looking at Miesha Tate. I thought Miesha Tate's right in that alley there. She is constantly looking for what's next for her as far as the way to the belt. And Chiasson's kind of in her way, so it might be the right way to go.
Thought about it.
Okay. Do you guys have anything to say about Pannie Kianzad?
Yeah, I went Yana Santos for her.
Hey,
right next to each other
so
in the
did I.
rankings. Haven't fought. Book it. You
Omar
too?
said me too.
Same.
Nice. Okay. One more to recap before we jump into our lightning round. In the middleweight division, Gerald Meerschaert notches his 36th career win by tapping Bryan Bam Bam Barberena. Wins the fight by rear naked choke. The official time 4:23 of round number 2. Omar, give me your thoughts on Barberena succumbing to the boa constrictor-like hold of Gerald Meerschaert.
I mean, that things like that are going to happen, man. You're not one is not to play with Gerald Meerschaert on the ground. That's really not. It's not the way you want to go. Your best chance at putting Gerald Meerschaert in the loss column is to crack him on the jaw. That's really about it. And Barberena, I thought, played a little bit too much with Gerald in there. To Gerald's credit, first of all, Gerald looked fantastic in there. Physically, I thought he looked really good in there. He looked a little bit more dialed in than it seemed like he has been in the past. And so I definitely think there might have been just an extra level of oomph to him this time around that we may not have seen in his most recent performances, but he looked absolutely fantastic in there. His striking actually looked pretty good, where sometimes he's you're left a little wanting from his striking from time to time. Bryan didn't look bad, but he didn't look, exceptionally fantastic in any one area. And I think Gerald was able to take advantage of that, man. And when he went down to the ground, once we started really battling in that clinch game, you could just see that Gerald was just more comfortable there, knew kind of the steps that he was going to take in there, where Bryan was just a little bit more reactive and not really kind of working on a technique to get out of those positions, just sort of reacting to the things that Gerald was doing in there. And by the time it was all said and done, man, I think the thing that I really took away from there was that he actually put Bryan out with a neck crank. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. I don't know if I've ever seen somebody go out off of a neck crank. That squeeze has got to be next level shit. I mean, that was a crazy.
And it's Bryan Barberena, man. Dude's got a big head.
But that's what I mean. Like, it's to put him out though, like to literally cut the circulation off to his brain.
That's crazy, dude.
Without being under the neck, solely under the neck. That's wild.
Okay, Mark, bringing you in here, what were your thoughts of Gerald Meerschaert choking out yet another victim?
I thought Gerald was surgical in this fight. And usually we use that phrase to describe strikers. It's definitely more fitting in that sense. But I really felt like that's what he was here. It seemed like exactly how he would have game planned it coming in. He kept the range beautifully to stay safe. He did a great job closing distance on his shots whenever he wanted to. He kind of step by step out grappled Bryan all fight, set him up, progressed from position to position, and then eventually tapped him. Like you can't really fight any cleaner than that if you're GM3. And to switch to Bryan for a minute, he just can't fight 185-pound grapplers, man. Like he doesn't have the reach or the takedown D, and you need at least one of them. The reach to be able to try to land big before they close on you, or the takedown D to try to force them to strike. And with neither of them, he just ends up backing up to the fence and circling to try to keep a guy like a GM3 off him. And you can't win a fight that way with the game of Bryan Barberena. So I'm not sure if he continues this 185-pound experiment or if he drops back down. I personally think 170 is where he should be. I don't like him up here. And for GM3, he adds another submission to a very long list of them.
Okay. Let's talk about where Mr. Meerschaert goes from here. Mark, Gerald Meerschaert now improves his record, like I said before, 36 wins and 17 defeats. 11-9 in the UFC. This is his, oh my God, his 28th win by submission. He has won almost 4 out of every 5 fights that he wins by submission.
Wow.
That being said, needless to say, he is good at jiu-jitsu. So, Mark, give me the next opponent for GM3.
I really like the idea of him fighting Edmen Shahbazyan. Obviously, I know Shahbazyan is fighting on Saturday, and we're going to talk about him in a little bit. But assuming he can beat AJ Dobson this weekend, I think that would be an awesome fight.
Omar, your thoughts?
Mine's a little bit more crazy. I thought about putting this in the MMA sphere, but it's not super serious. But what I am going to say is Sharabutin Magomedov. That dude just got his visa to travel to the U.S. to fight. So we should be seeing him on a more consistent basis at this point. And I kind of think him versus GM3 might be a hell of a fight.
Okay. Anything you guys have to say for Bam Bam Barberena?
I'm not even going to match him up. I want him to go back to 170, and I'm hoping that's what we end up hearing.
Okay.
I
Omar,
will match him
agree or
up
disagree?
because
Okay. Might as well.
the person I will match him up with is probably not going to take his ass down, and we might see a nice little fight. And that person is Punahele Soriano.
Oh, damn, dude. Damn.
Did Puna get cut, though?
Did he?
I don't know.
No, we give one more. Come on.
I
Maybe he
always
didn't.
liked Puna.
Maybe I just expected he was going to.
I mean, Barberena might get cut.
No, it doesn't seem like he did from what I'm looking at. All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
Barberena, that was his 4th loss in a row. And he now
Was it?
is
Fuck.
a sub 500 fighter in the UFC. He is 9-10 in the UFC.
Yeah, bro. Puna's lost four out of his last 5. It's not great for either one of them.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, lightning round, where I challenge Mark and Omar to give me their lightningest quick takes on the
Let's really
results
do
of these
lighting.
fights.
We got a lot of previews to get to.
Do lightning, guys. Really do it. Lightning. Okay, let's see. Mike Davis defeats Natan Levy by submission via arm triangle. Mark, go.
Mike Davis is so good, man. I wish this guy fought more often because I've been intrigued by his talent for a while now. He just never seems to get in the cage, but he's got it all, and he showed it all in this single fight. He dropped Levy clean in the first round. He out-wrestled him all fight long. The jits was on point in different moments. Obviously, he taps him to end it. Like in one fight, you kind of saw all the skills. And I said this last week, but his only UFC loss is still Gilbert Burns. So I'd love to see him get someone more established next time out and let us really gauge where he's at.
Omar.
I would have to agree, man. I thought Mike Davis looked absolutely fantastic. Who didn't miss? Who missed weight though? Because I'm noticing now this is a 157 catch weight.
Oh, I didn't know
Somebody
either of them did. I don't know.
Sounds like somebody fucked up. Either way, it was a great fight. I thought it was a fantastic performance from Mike Davis. That arm triangle was sneaky as shit. Okay, that man was all the way on Natan Levy's back, all the way controlling him. And next thing you know, he done flipped all the way to side control with an arm triangle trapped in there and just took him out. It was a beautiful, nice, sneaky arm triangle. Great performance.
Okay. The now infamous Chelsea Chandler, known now mostly for hightailing it away from our girl, Norma Dumont, gets back to the win column, hopefully putting that in her rearview mirror, getting it done over Josiane Nunez by a unanimous decision. Omar, go.
Hightailing it from a striking situation is not in her rear view at all. She still did that shit in this fight. There's got to be a better way to deal with these things than just literally turning full around and running. I don't know if that's...
I wonder what her coaches say. Are her coaches like, don't do that? Or are they like, yes, that's effective? Do not get punched.
I don't know, man.
Hard to tell.
I couldn't tell you. It baffles the mind for me. I could never turn my back in a fight like that. That's crazy. But this is the thing with Chelsea Chandler is that her striking is not her thing, right? She's a gritty fighter. She can take a shot for sure. She will stand and she'll bang with you, but she doesn't really have like striking technique when it comes to that stuff. Her ground game is where she excels. Her top pressure is stupid. And her ability to actually do shit from the ground is pretty on point. I mean, she's able to strike from the ground. She's able to kind of set up some submission attempts. Didn't get anything off, but she's able to at least holding control when she gets down to the ground. The striking, though, is so insanely not there that it is... If Josiane Nunez was taller, I think that fight would have went completely different. But I think the reach disadvantage really had Nunez trying to look for more than what was there. So I like Chelsea Chandler. Not my favorite fight, though, but good lightning.
Mark, start. Lightning, Omar. Lightning.
Were you seeing Mike throughout that whole thing?
I thought he was having a stroke of some kind.
Oh, man. Yeah, so I saw some suggestion online that Josiane Nunes won the first and third round of this fight and should have got the win. There is no chance that she won round one. I even
Yeah.
rewatched it just to be sure, and it's not even a close round. So I don't know where that's coming from. Chelsea certainly got 1 and 2. She still showed some worrying signs in the second, getting hit and going for a little run again. But all in all, it was good from her. She outstruck Nunes even in the first and obviously outgrappled her. She rallied in the second and leaned on her grappling to swing that round. And she did drop the third, but, she did enough to get herself a tough win. And she's kind of on the map now at bantamweight.
Yeah,
It's a shallow division.
True.
Yeah.
Okay. Rafael Filo or Jafel Filio
Filio.
defeats Ode Osborne by submission via rear naked choke. The official time 4:27 of round one. Mark, do it.
Filio's a beast, man. Two straight first round subs for him after his debut fight where he came so close to tapping Makayev. Almost got that done. And I figured Ode would be in trouble when this one hit the mat. Filio hit a beautiful takedown to get it there early, and it was just his world right away. And he was just patient. He worked, waited for his opening, and Ode survived a real tough spot, but Filio just put him right back into another one and got the tap. So real nice win, and he's another up-and-comer to watch in this flyweight division where we have a lot of them.
Omar, what are your thoughts on the Pastor getting done?
I thought his ground and pound, was what was most impressive. His ability to kind of keep control while throwing shots and landing shots and accumulating that damage on Ode Osborne, I thought was super impressive. And really it got to the point where the submission just really seemed almost like a way out for Ode Osborne. And not in his sense, but like Philo like giving him like all right, I'm tired of punching you in the face. Let's put you to sleep now. It was a great performance from him. I thought his ground game was a real problem.
Okay, Danny Silva wins his UFC debut, improving to 9-1 as a pro, defeating by split decision Josh Cooleybow. Omar.
This was a good fight, man. I thought this was a scrap. I think the second round was the round that was a little up in the air, if I remember it right. I thought the first round was pretty clear for Cooleybow. And then I thought the third round was pretty clear for Silva, but I think the second round is really where it was in the air. Either way, man, I thought it was a good fight. I thought it was a scrap, especially for that being Danny Silva's first fight in the UFC. That's a hell of a welcome party to have Josh Cooleybow be your first fight in the UFC. So good on him. Great fight. Yeah, good to see him. Hopefully we see him soon.
Mark.
I hate this result. Second one on this card that I hated. Josh Cooleybow won this fight, and I'm not saying it wasn't competitive because it was competitive, but Josh won the first two rounds, and I don't really see how you argue against it. And if you were ever going to argue for one of them, I guess you could argue round one just because Silva hurt him to start the round before Josh came back. And that's not even the one the judges gave to Silva. They gave him round two where there was nothing to even give to him. So I blew my mind that Cooleybow didn't win this fight. I love watching him strike. I thought he fought a great fight. He landed cleanly so often. Beautiful footwork, beautiful angles. I loved his variety. It was just great to watch. And Silva, he's a grinder, man. He was tough as hell, and he pushed to the end, and he won round 3 of a tough fight, but I don't think he won that fight.
Okay. Let's see. At 115 pounds, Jacqueline Amorim defeats Corey McKenna by submission via armbar in round number 1, improving to 8-1. Mark, go first.
I think we can accept at this point that you don't want to be in grappling situations with Jacqueline Amorim. You got to beat her on the feet or not at all, because from the second that takedown even began, she was already positioning herself like in the air, progressing to the triangle as soon as it hit the mat. Then the triangle became an armbar, and she got it 2 different times because of whatever the fuck Mike Beltran was doing.
Yeah.
So she's a problem. I mean, her jiu-jitsu is nasty, and if she can keep bringing the rest of the game along, she's going to be an interesting addition to this division.
Omar.
Yeah, man, sometimes these are the fights that really make me sad on the inside. I'm not a huge fan of secondhand embarrassment. I don't like it. Some people find it entertaining. There's movies where people enjoy a secondhand. I can't do it, man. It makes me so uncomfortable. And watching Corey McKenna get completely steamrolled the way that she did and then just like cry on the floor made me feel super bad. Like, I did not like any bit of it. Amorim looked good though, man. I mean, she got run over, dude. It was not great. I mean, like Mark said, from jump, as soon as the fight went down to the ground and Amorim was on bottom, right? McKenna's base was practically gone. Like the way that her full guard worked, all of her weight was basically in Amorim's chest. Amorim's legs were basically controlling the midsection of McKenna and was just manipulating her body however she wanted it to. Like even on ground on top, McKenna didn't even seem like she had any control over what was going on in the ground game. And it was crazy to watch, man. I mean, to watch the armbar get sunk in once, and then whatever happened, Beltran said something, Amorim thought it was done, and McKenna's like, I didn't tap, and then Amorim's like, all right, fuck you, and got the arm back and kept cranking it, and then flipped over a couple more times. All of that crazy shit happened, and at no point did McKenna look like she was anywhere out of trouble. I mean, this was probably a real dominant a performance as you can get in the octagon. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, man.
And painful to watch.
That's true too. Let's see. In the lightweight division, Thiago Moises defeats Mitch Ramirez by TKO via leg kicks. The official time, 15 seconds of round number 3. Omar, go.
This shit was nasty. This man had an extra knee on his shin by the time this was all said and done. This might have been one of the most painful leg kick situations I've seen, apart from leg breaks. I've never seen a golf ball on somebody's leg like that. Like, that was some shit. Credit to Mitch Ramirez for lasting until the third round, because I don't know if I would have lasted into the second round, let alone into the third. But yeah, man, I mean, Thiago Moises is an absolute beast. His whole performance from beginning to end was absolutely crazy. The striking was definitely on point. His ground game was on point. I mean, Mitch Ramirez just got fucked up from post to post and left with 3 knees that night. So good on Thiago Moises. Fantastic performance.
Yeah, man. Mark, your thoughts of Moises turning away the UFC debuting Mitch Ramirez?
Yeah, just a poised veteran performance where he handled a short notice opponent as I'm sure he hoped that he would. He was at his suffocating best, high-level grappling as always. He was ripping the leg, investing in the leg, and by the end of round 2, it had just become a glaring target, and he went right for it to start round 3. He headed in some Donald Cerrone fuck you kicks for good measure, and that was a wrap on a nice night for Moises, and he took advantage of his mic time too, so well done for him.
Okay, last one. Bantamweight division, Chad Ollinger. I'm totally butchering his name.
And Helliger.
Say again?
And Helliger.
Oh, you cut out.
And Helliger?
Yes, and Helliger. Defeats, I'm not going to try to say this guy's name. I'm just going to fuck up again.
Grigoriou
over Grigoriou. Mark, go.
Yeah, this was a great fight from Anheliger. Grigoriou came out strong and he had the wrestling going, but it was kind of all he had, and it drained him trying to take Anheliger down, because Anheliger was doing a great job. He was stuffing takedowns, he was staying up, he was ripping the leg when he had a chance, and he just sort of let Grigoriou tire himself out. And then at that point, over the last round and a half, he really turned it up. Someone on the broadcast, I forget who, compared his movement to Dominic Cruz's, and I really do see it. He's kind of like the minor league version of Dom, and he was on point here, in and out, great footwork, and he just really picked Grigoriou apart as he tired as the fight went on.
Omar, take us home.
Yeah, I think the thing I love about these kind of fights, when guys are constantly trying to take people down and they can't do it, the ones that really intrigue me are the fighters that make them pay for it, right? Sometimes, in my opinion, I don't think it's enough to stop a takedown. I think you have to make them pay for even attempting a takedown. So sometimes when you're getting off the cage or you're stopping the takedown, you spin them around, throw a punch, throw a kick, throw something, make them think twice about being in that position again. And we don't see that very often in MMA, and I think we need to see a lot more of it. And I think we saw that a lot with Angle and Helliger in this fight. Yeah, good performance, man. Really, really fun fight.
That does it. We did it. Mark, give us the